Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into the sub-Saharan African tech scene.
Okay.
And I gotta say, this isn't just gonna be the hottest new apps or anything.
Yeah.
We're going deeper, like way deeper
Hmm.
into the system itself.
Yeah.
The forces that make or break a good idea over there.
Yeah. It's like we're taking this, high-powered lens
Okay.
and we're zooming in on the entire ecosystem.
I love that.
Right.
Instead of just, zeroing in on one individual plant or something.
Exactly.
And our guidebook for all of this
Okay.
is this research report, actually.
Mm.
It's called Investigating Systemic Challenges in the Sub-Saharan Tech Ecosystem.
Okay.
And it's packed with insights
Yeah.
from entrepreneurs, investors,
Yeah.
really anybody who's in the thick of it.
Yeah. And what I really like about this report is that it doesn't shy away from, celebrating the wins, because there definitely are a lot,
Yeah.
but it also digs into those often hidden obstacles that are holding the whole, system back.
So before we get into it,
Okay.
let me just drop a stat that might surprise you.
Okay.
Okay, so imagine a field where only 30% of the seeds that are planted actually get enough water and sunlight to grow.
Wow.
That's essentially what's happening with funding in African tech.
Right.
Only about 30% of investments are going to Black founders,
Wow.
which is already a tiny fraction of the overall funding.
Yeah.
And we haven't even factored in women or anyone outside of the major tech hubs.
Yeah, that's a powerful image, and it really does highlight the imbalance at the heart of this whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
And what I find even more interesting
Okay.
is that the report shows it's not even just about the money.
Really?
Yeah, there are these deeper systemic issues, almost
Mhm.
like these invisible barriers
Interesting.
that prevent resources and opportunities from even reaching the people who need them most.
So it's like having this huge harvest, but only a select few actually get to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Ah,
And that brings us to what we're really diving into today.
okay.
We're going to explore these three key areas where these challenges, these systemic challenges, really play out.
Okay.
Equitable resource distribution,
Okay.
accessibility from entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
and the support that they receive.
So let's start with that first one, the flow of resources.
Okay.
The report found that there's this big dependence on outside funding. A whopping 70% of investments in sub-Saharan African tech
Wow.
come from outside of Africa.
Wow.
Now, foreign investment is important, it's crucial,
Sure.
but when it makes up, the lion's share,
Right.
it can create this imbalance.
It's true. Imagine trying to grow a garden, but you're using the weather patterns of a totally different continent.
Yeah,
You might get some things to grow,
right.
but it's not going to thrive the way it would with an understanding of the local climate.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens when the funding is mostly coming from outside, right? The
Yeah.
people making the decisions,
Mhm.
they might not really get the unique needs and cultural context of the African market.
And speaking of context,
Yeah.
the report uses this term, and it's really interesting, colonial mindset.
Oh, yeah?
And just to be clear,
Yeah,
this isn't about where somebody's from.
Right.
It's more about how they approach investment.
exactly.
Right.
It's about understanding history, the
Okay.
history of all of this.
Yeah.
A colonial mindset, that's someone who prioritizes quick profits
Right.
and taking things out
Yeah.
over long-term sustainability of the whole ecosystem.
So give me an example.
Okay, so imagine funders who are pushing for these crazy timelines
Yeah.
in a market that by its very nature
Mm.
takes time to develop.
Yeah.
That's that colonial mindset at play.
So instead of letting it grow,
Yeah.
it's all about get in, get a return, and get out.
That's the danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the report, it contrasts this with companies like Equity Bank. They're a phenomenal success story because they took a completely different approach.
So they started small and focused on underserved communities.
Exactly. They found a market where other people only saw risk.
Wow.
And because of that long-term vision, they're now a multi-billion-dollar company.
Wow, that's amazing.
A real testament to patience and, actually understanding the market.
It's a great example of what can be accomplished when you ditch that get-rich-quick mentality.
Yeah.
And you play the long game.
Absolutely.
But that also leads us to the next hurdle, which is accessibility.
Mm.
And this isn't just about cash, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Imagine you've got this amazing business idea.
Yeah.
It's going to change the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have no idea where to even go to get funding, mentorship, or how to even navigate the system. That is the reality for way too many entrepreneurs.
Wow.
It's not even just about the money.
Right.
It's about access to information, networks, and opportunity.
So, like, I have the idea, but I don't even know where to go.
Yeah, it's like having a map with no roads on it.
Yeah.
Just a vague idea of where you want to go.
Right. Right.
And to make things even more complicated, the report highlights this tension
Okay.
between book smarts and lived experience.
Okay. What do you mean?
So you can have someone with all the right degrees,
Yeah.
all the textbook knowledge in the world,
Okay.
but they might totally miss the nuances of the market,
Yeah.
the cultural context, the lived experiences that really shape what works and what doesn't.
It's like they say, you don't really know someone until you've walked a mile in their shoes. And sometimes those shoes have walked through, like, informal markets,
Yeah.
supply chain disruptions,
Yeah.
social structures that, like, regular business models just don't account for.
Exactly. And the report actually goes a little deeper,
Okay.
and it points out the small detail with big consequences.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
The timing of networking events,
What about
a
it?
lot of these events,
Yeah.
crucial for making those connections
Right.
and accessing resources.
Mhm.
They're often held in the evenings.
Oh, okay.
Now, that might seem like no big deal,
Yeah.
but for female entrepreneurs,
Okay.
many of whom are responsible for caregiving,
Right.
it puts them at a huge disadvantage.
It's like one of those, like, tiny little details
Yeah.
that has these huge consequences.
Exactly.
And nobody even thinks about it.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that access.
Yeah.
It's not just about opening the door. It's about making sure that everyone can walk through it.
I like that.
Right.
Right.
And that leads us to our final and I think most important
Okay.
area of focus,
Okay.
the support system itself.
Because you can get through the door, but then you need the tools to actually thrive.
Exactly.
Right.
And one of the most common complaints
Yeah.
that entrepreneurs mentioned in this report,
Okay.
this feeling of being fragmented.
Fragmented how?
They're going from one short-term program to the next,
Okay.
never getting the sustained, comprehensive support they need to build a really strong business.
So it's like giving a plant a little bit of water every now and then.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, making sure it has that constant source of, everything it needs
That's a great way to put it.
to really thrive.
Yeah, it might survive,
Right.
but it's not going to thrive.
Right.
And so many programs
Yeah.
focus on like business theory,
Yeah.
the fundamentals.
Mm.
But what they really need is help with practical skills
Like what?
like HR, financial management, navigating regulations, the basic stuff.
Right. The stuff you actually need to run a business.
Exactly. Especially in a challenging market like sub-Saharan Africa.
It's about equipping them not just to launch, but to scale.
Yes.
And to grow.
Exactly.
Right.
You got it.
Yeah.
But the report goes even deeper than that.
Okay, tell me more.
A lot of entrepreneurs said they felt treated like a product.
Treated like a product. What do you mean by that?
So imagine investors see entrepreneurs as commodities to be traded
Interesting.
for a quick return, instead of partners to support long-term.
I see.
So it creates this transactional relationship
Yeah.
instead of genuine collaboration.
So it's about changing your mindset from extraction to empowerment.
Yes.
Wow. Oh, okay. So we've talked about these challenges, systemic barriers, and the need for a new approach.
Yeah.
But we need to acknowledge the elephant in the room, or should I say the continent on the map.
Oh.
Africa is huge. It's not a monolith.
Right.
Each region has its own strengths, its own challenges, its own context.
Absolutely.
And something that works in Nigeria might totally flop in Rwanda.
Exactly. And that's why solutions need to be as diverse as the continent itself.
So what are some of the differences that were highlighted in the report?
Entrepreneurs in West Africa, they were much more likely to say that the lack of reliable infrastructure was a major obstacle.
Makes sense. It's hard to run a tech startup with constant power outages.
Right. It's about laying the foundation first.
Yeah.
Then you worry about the product.
Right.
Now, in Southern Africa, they were more frustrated with investors who came in with this like one-size-fits-all approach.
It all goes back to that colonial mindset.
It really does.
So where do we go from here? I mean, we've covered a lot, the need for a new approach, the systemic barriers.
It's a lot, but the stories of resilience were really powerful.
What do you mean?
We see all these entrepreneurs defying the odds, creating their own opportunities, building businesses that are changing their communities.
So it's about shifting from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance.
Exactly. Seeing those challenges as opportunities for innovation.
It's about empowering the people who understand the needs of their communities.
Yes. And that leads us to a crucial point. The need for more women at all levels.
Because when women thrive, the whole ecosystem benefits.
Absolutely. Greater innovation, better understanding of diverse markets, more equitable distribution of resources.
We need to tap into the full potential.
Yes.
You know, as we're talking, I keep coming back to this idea of time.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, we always hear about the need for speed in the tech world.
Right. Rapid growth.
Disruption. Exactly. But to build a truly thriving ecosystem, especially one as complex as sub-Saharan Africa's, it's going to take time.
Building a strong ecosystem is like growing a forest. It doesn't happen overnight.
Investors, entrepreneurs, policymakers, we all need to embrace that long-term vision.
We need to nurture those seeds of innovation.
Let them grow at their own pace.
Africa isn't just a place to extract value from. It's a place to invest in, to learn from, and to grow with.
I love that. To our listeners out there, keep asking those tough questions.
Yes.
Keep your eyes open for the people creating change.
Keep exploring.
This has been an amazing conversation.
It has.
Until next time, keep learning and keep diving deep.